Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Sadie and Sean Have No Friends, brought to you by our fabulous sponsors at Christiana Salon Spa. They're located in Johnstown. They do hair, they do nails, massage, facials, and so much more. And all you got to do when you go in is mention this podcast, and you'll get 10% off. Sean, how are you?
Pretty good. You doing good?
Yeah. So I just want to jump into something that I was just reading when I was waiting for you to jump on. Have you heard about the Simpsons conspiracy theory?
Well, I've heard that they've predicted a lot of shit that actually has come true and happened.
They literally just predicted something again.
The Hawk Tuah girl?
No. Which we got to talk about that because she interviewed with Rolling Stone and she's like, things are happening. My dreams are coming true. And I'm like, dude, you simulated spitting on a wiener. Like, is it like you went to Juilliard and you're like, it's finally happening. I'm on Broadway.
It's a good thing she didn't, because that'd have been a lot of wasted money when all she had to do was simulate spitting on a wiener and it all worked out.
And she says
I know she got a nearly $1 million agent deal.
Do you think Hawk 2 girl is gonna end up in porn?
The offers.
There's no doubt. To guess.
There's no doubt
she's already getting it.
Well, there's no doubt that the offers have come through, but like when you're offered millions of dollars to not do porn and you can just be normal, like I guess it makes the choice easy. If the only choice you have is to do porn, then you do it.
Or why not just not do porn? She may shock everybody, but I don't know, filthy mind like that girl.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying though. She's getting offered a lot of money. She doesn't have to do it. If that's your only offer, if you're just a person and they're like, here's $1 million, and we've talked about this, but here's $1 million to do porn, and you're not offered $1 million to not do porn, you're going to do porn.
I don't think
she's getting offered $1 million and she doesn't even have to. She's just got like modeling deals and podcast deals and like all kinds of crazy normal stuff.
Yeah, I just wonder how she's going to segue. What if she's the next Oprah Winfrey? And we're like, holy God. Isn't that amazing? It just shows that life is just so weird. So anyway, The Simpsons is my favorite show of all time. I think I've seen all of them. And so I kind of jumped in today after I read today that 30 years ago, there was a prediction on an episode of The Simpsons called Homer Palooza. It was in 1996. This played on TV. And the band Cypress Hill performing with a London Symphony Orchestra.
Do you know Insane in the Brain?
We mostly know classical, but we could give it a shot.
And back in 1995, it was like, that would never happen. This is crazy. And they just announced that they are now going to be performing. So that one's kind of like, that's interesting. But listen to some of these other ones. Have you heard that there was the Trump prediction one?
As you know, we've inherited quite a budget crunch from President Trump. How bad is it, Secretary Van Houten?
We're broke.
The country is broke?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they predicted that Trump was going to be president. There was a COVID one where they predicted COVID. You knew that one?
Please don't tell the supervisor I have the flu.
I've been working with a shattered pelvis for 3 weeks.
Oh, my juice loosener's never gonna come.
Hey, Dad, this came for you in the mail.
Woohoo! I actually remember all of these episodes, so I'm like, okay, this one's kind of freaky. So there was an episode that played in 1993, and the tiger, it was Siegfried and Roy, and this is 1993. It shows Siegfried getting eaten by the tiger, like the tiger attacks him in the cartoon. And it's hilarious. In 2003, exactly a year later.
10 years later, if my math is correct.
10 years later, It actually happened. And so that's a weird one. And then
the place where Siegfried and Roy performed is closing next week. Did you see that?
Oh, you're going to be there. Are you going to go there?
I wasn't going to go to the Mirage because they're about to tear it down. It's closing on the 17th, and I'm going to be there during the time period where it closes, and I wasn't going to go, but there's this thing that's been going around social media, and I told Shannon we got to go now because they have to give away $1.6 million in jackpots that they've promised people before they tear down the place. And so I'm like, dude, I'm going there. I don't even play slot machines, but I'm gonna play every damn slot machine in that place. I'm gonna get me that 1.6 million.
I think it's always amazing when you go to Vegas and you just sit and watch the people. I actually saw a video. I didn't see this for real, but I died laughing when I saw this video. And it was somebody in a motorized Jazzy just going in a circle and putting quarters into the machines, like running like 6 games at one time. And I thought, that's what you see when you're there. It's so crazy. I love Vegas.
Well, you don't see that anymore. You don't, because they don't use quarters anymore. It's all you put the cash in, or you put like one of those little papers in there. Nothing's quarters, and it doesn't spit out quarters. No, it doesn't spit out quarters when you win. I remember seeing pictures. My grandma would post them around her house because she would go to not Vegas, but she'd go to Central City. And my grandma had the lucky touch. She'd always win the jackpot. And when you win the jackpot back then, they'd take a picture of you with like a Polaroid, put it in this like cardboard frame, and it's you with this whole bucket of quarters. And she would like post them on her wall. And she had like 7 of these bastards. I don't know how many quarters were in that bucket, but she won a lot.
Really? You don't have like a solid number of like anything she won?
I mean, she knew back then, like winning $1,500 on a jackpot when it was quarters was a lot of money. I think it was those kind of jackpots. She wasn't winning millions, but like $1,500 when you put 10 cents in there to play it was a pretty good return on investment. And so she was pretty proud of that. They would also give her t-shirts, and I would wear them to bed. Like these big giant t-shirts that said, I won the jackpot in Central City.
Was she on one of those ridiculous Central City commercials where they're like, yay, those are I can't even explain this commercial. They're just the worst. It's just awful. But did she do any of those commercials?
No, I do remember those commercials, but no, she didn't. She had this foreign guy that she met, and he would carry around, she would tip him pretty well, I think, and he would carry around her jackpot winnings, because you in those days you really had to carry around the quarters. Like, it didn't pay you with a piece of paper like the casinos do now.
Walk the quarters over to the cash out.
It was like, the full bucket worth of quarters, and sometimes when she'd win a big one, it was 2 or 3 buckets. And so now you got this elderly lady who she's on oxygen. She's got to pull her oxygen tank, and she's got 4 buckets full of quarters too. And so she hired this foreign dude, and she would call him Dante Bichette. And he would carry around her quarters for her. I don't know what she paid him.
Okay, was it one time, or was this a regular thing?
Multiple times she told me that this guy who she called Dante Bichette carried around her quarters.
Dante Bichette.
That's what she called him. Dante Bichette, by the way, he was a famous player for the Rockies. So this wasn't actually Dante Bichette.
I know that name. Okay, so this last one, I want to give you this last one, but I'm going to have to read it because it's such a crazy, this is insane to me. So in 1998, stick with me, there was an episode, it was called The Wizard of Evergreen Terrace, and it shows aspiring inventor Homer standing next to a chalkboard. He's got this massive equation. Well, what happened in real life is the equation on the chalkboard was impressively close to predicting the mass of the Higgs boson, aka the God particle.
The what?
The God particle.
What's the God particle?
Well, I mean, let me read into it more. It was discovered in 2012, and if you work it out, you get we're never going to understand this. If you work it out, you get a mass of Higgs boson that's only a bit larger than a nanomass of Higgs boson actually is. Did that make sense to you? Why did I?
No, that's why did you say that one for the grand finale? That's really lame.
Because we don't understand what the God particle is because it's too hard. But on The Simpsons, they were able to figure this equation out. I think that's interesting. Now you fucking take a from here.
I think the whole thing's interesting because the thing about The Simpsons is they weren't trying to predict anything. They were just putting on episodes. They were just, and it turns out that like their episodes keep coming to fruition.
Yeah, it's really weird.
I really hope they don't have an episode with you where you get your
get my
head chopped off.
What, that would be fucking weird if I did an interview with me. Okay, let's go back to, I want to talk more about Vegas because you're leaving tomorrow, and which, I mean, I guess time is really irrelevant when we're doing this, but you're leaving and you're going to be there for quite a while. For me,
just
Vegas,
4 days.
For me, 4 days is a lot in Vegas.
It is too much. I've always said 3 days is too much in Vegas.
So what are you doing? Oh, well, it's a bowling tournament, right?
Yeah, so 2 days. 2 days is bowling, and then a couple of days to probably hang out by the pool. I think we're going to go to a show.
What are you going to go to?
I like going to shows in Vegas, and so I've seen most of them because I end up going to Vegas once a year usually, and we end up going to 2 shows every time. And over the course of 10 or 12 years, the shows don't ever change. It's like David Copperfield and Carrot Top. How many times do you have to see these guys? And so
or like the Beatles, Cirque du Soleil, like all this. Have you gone? Well, there's a sex Cirque du Soleil. It's erotica, and it's legit.
I don't think it exists anymore.
Do you know what I'm talking about? Did you see it? I saw it.
I don't think I saw it.
It was weird, but awesome. But I'll never forget the seats in the theater were so small and close together that the guy next to me was profusely sweating. It wasn't Ryan. He was on the other side of me. He was sweating, but I mean, it was just such tight quarters. And then they were doing these like Cirque du Soleil sexy dances. It was weird. We left and I was like, oh, okay, well, that was weird. I'd go again.
I don't really like the Cirque du Soleil stuff because I don't have the brain capacity for the artsy shit. And so a lot of times I think when they do Cirque du Soleil, they have a vision in mind that like this gymnastics routine or ballet routine is supposed to represent something, and it goes right over my head, and I'm just like, all right, cool. I'm not into ballet, so didn't get that, didn't like it. Although,
yeah, but also I love the like everything is shocking. Like, how is this guy doing 37 flips in midair? Like, it just nothing makes sense. So it's not really like a ballet. And sometimes it's
like a ballet to me.
Sex ballet.
Yeah, that's even weirder for me. I don't like watching other people have sex.
Okay, so
in ballet form.
It's my
we got tickets to go see. There's a new one, and I think it's actually where that one used to be. The sex Cirque du Soleil. There's a new one. It's called.
Oh, is
it's at the New York, and it's called Mad Apple, and it's like a variety show, I guess, is the way that I have this buddy who lives in Vegas, and he was telling me like where to eat and what shows to see, and he's like, this new Mad Apple show is getting a lot of good reviews, and it's like a Cirque du Soleil variety show. There's like some comedy, some magic, some acrobats, just all kinds of stuff, and it's like New York setting, like because it's at the New York. So we're going to that.
That sounds just as cool as the erotica.
Lots of time at the pool.
Yeah, well, listen, that I said it like a million times. I love Vegas, and everyone that I know hates Vegas. I know a lot of people who are like, we will never go to Vegas ever again. First of all, it did take a weird turn when COVID hit. Like, it just became a different kind of Vegas for a while there. It was rough. And then I feel like now it's kind of coming out of that, but I love it. I think it's so fun and fast paced, and people are weird and crazy. And it's like it's just great. I love it. You're going to have so much fun.
No, I used to love it. Vegas used to be, and I think we've mentioned this a time or two, but Vegas used to be cheap. Like, you could fly there cheap, and the casinos wanted you in their casinos so you could stay super cheap, even at the really nice places, because they thought that you would play blackjack and lose all your money playing blackjack. And it's changed because I guess the word got out and more people go or something, but flights are more expensive and the rooms are crazy now. You want to stay somewhere nice, it's going to cost you an arm and a leg to go to Vegas. And then you're still going to lose your ass on the blackjack table in addition to that. And so, and it's more crowded than it ever used to be. And I know I sound like a complainer, but it's not Vegas like it used to be. Like, dude, if you go on the Strip on the weekends, you can't even walk. It's so packed.
Yeah, but I feel like it's always been that way because they've
No.
had the guy with the flicky
Yeah, they
naked
don't have
card.
those guys anymore either, though. I miss those.
No, the last time I went, they had naked flicky card people, and I was like, I'm back. I love it here. The first time I went, I was like, oh my God. That's
First time I went,
woman.
I can't believe my parents let me go, but I was a decent bowler at a young age, and so I got to go at like 17 or 18 years old, and I went out on the strip and I collected those cards like you wouldn't believe. I stored those babies for a long time.
You know how some boys have like the baseball cards? Has
I
like
had
a
them all.
booklet full of nude cards. And the girls, those aren't the girls you're probably going to get if you go through this shady dude on the Vegas Strip.
How is that legal, by the way? Like, how is it legal to hand out a card that says it's straight up prostitution? This dude is handing me a card that says call this number and this girl will come.
Here's how they get around it. They say you can hire a companion for the evening, and you can hire one. I saw some full-on hooking going on the last time I was there. We went to this restaurant, and there was a guy there. He looked like Tony Soprano, and the girl with him was very young. And so she got up to go to the bathroom, and I was a little drunk. And I'm like, I want to go ask her, like, are you getting paid for this? Because girls open up to each other a lot more than dudes do. And but Ryan's like, no, he's mortified. And I'm like, I think I'm going to say something like, we went to high school together, and I did, and she didn't remember me, but I thought that would segue into like, is that your husband out there? But she washed her hands pretty quick and was out of there.
You didn't get to talk to her?
No, I was like, did we go to high school together? And she was like, I don't think so. Washed her hands and walked out. There was no more for me to get in, no crack for me to be like, is that your husband? Or are you being paid?
They're probably not going to tell you, even though you think that she would, because it's illegal. And so she probably thinks you're a cop or a narc.
True.
Did I ever tell you my hooker story from Vegas?
No, I would have remembered, I think.
So this was still when I was like 17, 18, 19 years old. No, I had to have been 21. I had to have been freshly 21 because I was playing blackjack. And I had no money. So my best friend's dad, who is also just a really good friend of mine, and God rest his soul, he passed away a few years ago, but we were playing blackjack. He's a much older guy than me. He's my best friend's dad. He was probably 60 at the time. And him and I were playing blackjack together, and we were also rooming together on a bowling trip. So we had a double room, and I had one bed, he had one bed. We were playing blackjack, and all of a sudden, this pretty good looking girl comes to the blackjack table, and she's like, "Hey, you mind if I play with you?" And of course, we were like, "Yeah, please do. Please come play with us."
Have a seat.
And she sits next to me, and she sits through a few hands and doesn't play, and is just like looking at me. And then all of a sudden, she reaches to my chips and she starts taking my chips to play them. And I was like, hold on,
she's
bitch.
being like sexy, like, ooh, I'm gonna bet on 7 or something.
No, she's not even being that sexy or flirty. She's just like all of a sudden taking my chips and playing. And I let her do it one hand. And then I was like, hey, I don't have very much money. What are you doing? And she's like, you don't want me to play with you? And I was like, not with my chips. Like, play with your own fucking chips. I don't want you playing with mine. And she was like, honey, we could have had so much fun. That's what she told me. And I was like, oh, dang it.
If you would have just given me your $36 in chips, we would have definitely had sex.
Well, it gets way better than that. So my buddy's dad, he noticed all of this going on, and he's like, hey, you can play with my chips. And so she gets up from next to me, and he was sitting on the left side of me. She goes to the other side of him, and he gives her probably $200 or $300 in chips, and she's playing. I run out of money. I lose. I go to bed. I'm sleeping. I think I went to bed at like midnight. I fall asleep, and next thing I know, at 3 a.m, I hear the door open, and I think it's my buddy's dad going to bed, and it is, but he has a guest with him, and it's her. And so I pretended,
like, hey, I know you, loser.
Looking back on the situation, what I should have done had I known, I don't think in my days of being asleep knew exactly what was happening. if I could have thought more clearly, I should have gotten my ass up and left. Instead, I tried to pretend like I was sleeping. And instead of them saying, "Hey, do you think you could give us some privacy?" They went for it with me in the bed right next door. And I heard everything. I didn't see anything.
She was a hooker?
I didn't look over. I didn't see anything.
Story.
And so they get done and he goes
Oh my
to the
God.
bathroom.
Wait. Stop, please. Was it loud? Did they do really freaky stuff where you were like,
no, it didn't last.
Or was
very
it
long.
like just
it didn't last very long at all. Like from my memory, again, this was when I was barely 21 years old. And so this had to have been 15 years ago. And it didn't last very long at all from my recall. She wasn't a very good actress because I didn't hear anything really out. I heard this kind of sounds. That's all I heard. There was no moaning. There was no, and so
wait. So was your friend also in the room where his dad was sleeping with the hooker?
No, he had a girlfriend at the time and they were sharing a room. Me and
oh
his
my
dad
God, that would be just disgusting. Even though this is also very troubling behavior. Did you
so
ever
then she gets done.
Okay, go ahead.
She gets done, goes to the bathroom. I think she cleans herself up, goes to the bathroom, whatever she was doing. And she comes out. And instead of like being courteous, I guess they were never courteous. But instead of being courteous and leaving the lights off, they turn the lights on. And so at this point, I'm like, oh, just woke up. What are you guys doing? And she comes over and she puts her boobies right in my face and like jiggles them in my face. She's like, "Are you next?" And I was like, "Next for what?" And she's like, "I'm just kidding." And so she was like, "Hey, call me to the friend's dad." She's like, "Call me later on this week. We'll get back together." And she leaves. And so anyways, the very next night, he knows that I have no money. He was like, How about this? Instead of you being in the room tonight, I'll give you $100 if you stay away while she comes over. And so
you're like, can I get $100 for the trauma you gave me last night by not giving me this choice?
he gave me $100, and I was a bad gambler at the time. Not that anyone's ever a good gambler, but I go down, I lose my $100 in 14 seconds. And so I fart around the casino, mess around for like a half an hour. And knowing that it took no time the night before, I'm thinking to myself, all right, it's been a half an hour. I'm out of $100. I have no money of my own. I want to go to my room. So I go and I knock. And he tells me to go away. I'll call you when we're done. And so I was like, give me another $100. So he gives me a 50. He handed me a 50 through the little crack in the door. I went away, lost it in 14 seconds, stayed away for like an hour. He called me. He's like, all right, it's safe to come back. And not moral of the story, but fast forward a little bit further. He stayed in touch with this girl. She would call him and she would get put in jail because she would get caught hooking and he would bail her out. Or she would not have a busy month and she would need help with her phone bill. He'd pay it for her. This went on for a couple of years before he passed away.
This could have been you, Sean, if you just let her have some.
Oh, good. Yeah. I would have loved that. And so this is kind of grim, but it went on until he died in an accident. And my friend he ended up having to call this hooker in Vegas and be like, "Hey, I hate to tell you, but my dad passed away." And she's like, "You're lying. Like, he just doesn't want to support me anymore." And he's like, "No, dude, he really actually passed away." But this went on from this blackjack table all the way until he passed away. He was like supporting this hooker in Vegas. And I think he went out there a few more times.
How many times did he go? And
at least a couple of times went out there and hung out with her.
Oh my God. So maybe there was a relationship, John. That is the best Vegas story. Now, let's digress a little bit. Were they drunk? Was the guy drunk? Because I couldn't imagine bunking in a room with my kid's friend, which I would just feel weird anyway if the friend wasn't also there, or if my kid wasn't also there. And so was he drunk when he came in with her? Was he a drinker?
No, not really. It's hard to explain this guy too, because he was one of the more eccentric people I've ever met in my life. Like he was the most extroverted guy you've ever met. Like he was friends with everybody and very loud, but funny and not in your face, but funny. And just like not a whole lot of shits to give. like if he was alive today, I would still tell this story and he would be totally cool with me telling it on the podcast of the whole world. He was proud to tell everyone about his hooker friend in Vegas. Like this wasn't a secret.
How did his kid feel about it? Did you guys ever talk where you were like, God,
Yeah,
my dad won't stop with this hooker?
I don't think he really minded because it made him happy. At times he told me, he's like, I'm just happy that he's happy. And like, that's fine. He didn't really like the fact he didn't know how much money was being sent and where the money was being.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know that any of us will ever know. This was a very cash oriented gentleman, and a lot of his transactions were done via cash. And so they're not trackable. And therefore, we'll never know how much money he actually spent on this woman, but through the I don't even know how many years this was. It had to have gone on for 3 or 4 years. There was a lot of money exchanged, a lot of money.
I mean, obviously I have no idea what your friend looks like, but that would be so hard.
Kind of like Santa Claus, white hair, white beard, chunky dude. He wasn't pulling any young puss.
Santa Claus.
He wasn't naturally going to pull any young puss. The only way that he was going to get this was to pay for it, and he understood that, and he did it.
This has to be like she must not have been expensive if she didn't put any effort into it. I think once you get a high dollar chick, they'll act it out. I mean, they're like, ooh, yeah, as I've seen.
How do you know?
Because there's a show on HBO and it's called like Cat House.
Oh, yeah. I have a story about that someday too, but
I love your random
same guy.
Same guy. Did he go to because this is another part of Vegas where it is legal.
It's not Vegas, it's closer to Reno. It's an hour away from Reno.
Okay, so now
it's like
I have
on
heard
the California Nevada line in the middle of nowhere in a trailer house.
And I've heard it's just so gross, but
dude died. That dude died too. What's his name? I used to have him. I used to do a radio show on a rock station, and his guy reached out and was like, "Hey," because I told a story on the air about it. He reached out and he became a weekly guest on my show. The guy that owned
the Cat House guy.
Yeah. What's his name? He's famous. What's his name?
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
I gotta Google it now. You hold on. Cat House. The series.
Cat House, the series. What did he die of? Did he just die of
the Moonlight Bunny Ranch? That was his name. No, he did randomly croaked of a heart attack, like fast. It wasn't expected. Dennis Hoff, that was his name.
Oh.
I for a year straight, every week I had Dennis Hoff on my radio program, and we would talk about whatever. And he actually, at one point on one of the episodes, gave me a free pass. He's like, the next time you're in my area, you pay for your travel, you come here, you get anything you want.
I'd be so mad if I were one of them women. And he was like, because here's what they do if you need, I've never been there. I would totally go just to check it out. I bet they get a lot of like looky-loos. I'm not looking to go, but the rooms are all different, but they're so ghetto. But there's a show on HBO and it was called Cat House, I think. And it was about this prostitution place in the middle of nowhere and
legal there.
And the women they'd be like on this speaker, because it's like a trailer with a few rooms, and they'd be like, ladies, come out. And they'd all walk out in like their undies and high heels. And then they'd stand there in a line.
You pick one.
And the guy would be like, I'll take that one. And then the lady, like, bless their heart, because they're on the show. They're like, all right. And I'd be like, They don't show the actual act of sex, but they show in the room. There's cameras in the room.
Yeah,
it's a trippy show because it's just interesting to see how these people, like some people come in regularly because they have a certain girl that they like and they have this connection and they just are lonely. And some people, I mean, it's such a good show. I might start watching it again, but it's fascinating because these girls, they're troopers. Cause I'm telling you, if they were like, go down the line and it was a big, hairy, ugly, fat ass, I would be like Ted Kennedy. I'd be like, I'm out. I wonder, I don't think you're allowed to say I'm not in this one.
No, yeah. Once that's the unfortunate part for the girl is like, If
Like
big
if
fat
a
hairy ugly
Richard
guy
Gere
picks ya,
walked in, I'll jump in line and be like, okay, I'll give them okay. But
yeah, you take what you get when you're the girl. You don't get to pick. You don't be like, I'll take that guy. No, you get the guy that picks you.
and you know that Richard Gere isn't going into that place. He could get poon anywhere. You don't want dirty
I mean,
Vegas
I've
desert.
heard of celebrities going into those kind of places because it's easy for them. Like they don't have to put any. I don't have to go be Richard Gere. I can just show up and get my ding dong hawk to it. Then sign me up. Here's a couple $100.
I don't know. Vegas is a weird place. And
Well,
I
I'm
think,
happy to say that on this trip this week, my wife is going with me, so I don't have to worry about getting any hookers or anything like that.
oh, good. That takes a lot off your plate. I hope
Yeah.
you guys have a lot of fun at your Erotica Cirque du Soleil show.
It's not the erotica one.
Well, then you're missing out because it was pretty hot, actually. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of Sadie and Sean Have No Friends. Thank you again to our show sponsor, Christiana Salon and Spa. Also, thank you to our friends at Casey's Pest Control Services. They do the pet of the week. And to this week, Sean, it's 4. I'm going to post their pictures if you're watching on our video.
You have to take all 4?
You don't have to take them, but listen to this. It's the country western lineup. These puppies are named Reba, Tim McGraw, Billy Ray, and Sean's favorite person ever, Garth. And these puppies are to die for. So I'll post a picture. We are doing it with Mile High Canine Rescue. So the info will be on the screen for that as well. Or you can go to milehighcaninerescue.org and check out the pet of the week. In this case, pets, little country superstars. And that's it. Bye.